We're going to start on time just for y'all. All right, let us pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks for our parish family, for this part of the kingdom of heaven that we call St. Luke's. Open now our hearts and minds to learn more about you, even if it is through a couple of demons. For we ask all these things in Christ's name. Amen. Well, it's good to see all of y'all here this morning, and this is something I've been pretty excited about for some time. I love the Screwtape Letters. I like just about every book that C.S. Lewis ever wrote, but the Screwtape Letters is one of those that I've read a couple of times, and then through the years I decided, that I wanted to actually teach an online version of this, the Screwtape Letters. I don't teach that much like this one-on-one. I tend to do more here in the way of podcasts and other things like that. And so that's what this is going to be. This is the only time you'll actually see me standing in front of a microphone talking. Instead, this is going to be a Lenten discipline, and I'll tell you more about it and how to find all the good information along the way so that you'll have a holy Lent. And let's put it this way, we're going to make this the easiest Lenten discipline you've ever had, I hope. And so, but the Screwtape Letters, and if it doesn't change slides, let me know. I'm not real good at this, and so, but supposedly all I have to do is touch the slide. The Screwtape Letters was written by C.S. Lewis, and we'll get more into C.S. Lewis in a little bit, but it came out at a time when people needed to find hope. And C.S. Lewis was really good at figuring out ways to get his message across to people at a time when they needed to hear his message. Now, C.S. Lewis wrote about 30 books all total. Probably the one you're most familiar with would be the Chronicles of Narnia, which I have read. If you have not read the Chronicles of Narnia, most people have read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or seen it on, the TV. They did a movie about it and all that. The rest of them are also well worth reading. And so when Phyllis was out of town for a week or so one time, I'd had them forever and never read them, started reading them and couldn't put them down. And so if you're more of you can get most of C.S. Lewis's books on, I don't know if we still call it books on tape or books on digital or whatever. You can get a lot of C.S. Lewis's books that way. And I'm going to give you some other resources along the way for Screwtape Letters. Now, the Screwtape Letters I got to catch up, is a great theology book. I want to make sure we understand that during Lent this is a theology book, which means it's the study of God. It's just from a different perspective. And this one will actually, I think, make you laugh. There are times when I'm reading it that I just think, oh my gosh, this is the funniest thing. But then, and I can actually see this happening. And I'm also going to tell you about another resource. You remember John Cleese? He was, Monty Python and the Flying Circus, John Cleese. He recorded the Screwtape Letters. And let me tell you, I'm pretty sure this is the way Screwtapes actually sounds. And so, anyway, I'll give you those resources too. But I think the most important thing for us to remember in this time is that Lent is an opportunity for us to take stock of our lives. It is sort of like a great opportunity to say, where am I right now in my own Christian life? And then to look at those things that are sort of getting in the way of our relationship with God. Usually they're very small things, and we just have to be willing to say, you know what? I am going to get rid of that, and Lent's the perfect time. When you give something up for Lent, you're supposed to take on something spiritual. So, and Screwtape Letters is definitely a spiritual thing to take on. Now, I think the other thing about that is that, and I can catch up here with my notes. I want to introduce you this morning first to the main characters of the book and tell you just a little bit about it. And well, the other thing I'm going to do is to tell you a little bit about C.S. Lewis and some of his viewpoints that are important to understanding this book. Now, first of all, we want to meet Uncle Screwtape. Now, I went online and looked for basically non-threatening demons. You put Google in and go non-threatening demons. But Uncle Screwtape is probably, I would say, the second main character of the book. And, well, he is a demon, a senior demon in middle management in the kingdom below. We don't really know which department he's in charge of, but I don't think it's one that we really want to follow too much. All right, and he is writing letters to his nephew, Wormwood. And, well, Wormwood is a newly minted demon graduate from the Graduate School of Demonology. We'll find some other demons along the way that have contributed to his education. But he is Screwtape's nephew. And all of the book, the entire book, the 31 letters that we read are all written by Screwtape in response to letters written by Wormwood. You don't get to see Wormwood's letters to Screwtape. And in fact, there's a lot of times when I'm reading a book and I just sort of skip over the preface because, well, a lot of times you don't need to read the preface. You do need to read the preface in this one because it tells you how C.S. Lewis apparently came across these letters. I'm going to tell you the real story in a little bit, but that's all part of the story. All right. But Wormwood is a newly minted demon, and he has been assigned his uncle as his mentor. And so he must write his uncle letters regularly, reporting on his progress as he attempts to tempt the patient. Now, the patient is a young Englishman who Wormwood is tempting so that they may win him over for the kingdom below. And we never really learn his name, so don't be skipping ahead, trying to find out what his name is. He's just known as the patient. He is a supporting actor in this story. We do learn a lot about him, though, and his relationship to God and to his neighbors of various types and sorts. I will tell you, one of the people he learns is people with squeaky shoes tend to bother him, the patient, a lot. All right. As well, God, who is, I will have to say, is the number one character in this book, is God. And, well, God is referred to by Screwtape and Wormwood as the enemy, which should make us feel really good about the fact that we worship God. But anyway, now for them, and it took me a while to find that picture of Satan, but anyway, Satan, or our Father below, would have to be another major character in this book. Now, along the way, Uncle Screwtape writes, as I said, these 31 letters in response to letters that Wormwood had written to him as all part of his training and his mentorship. And, well, as we look at this, one of the other things that I've found funny about this each time I read this book is, in the patient, and as Wormwood reports on him and Screwtape responds, I keep finding a lot about myself. I have long been convinced that we really don't come up with anything new in the kingdom of heaven. We just go back and do things that others before us have done. Maybe we perfect some of their sins. Maybe we find different ways to interfere with our relationship with God. But as I read the Screwtape letters and I look at the ways that Screwtape is advising Wormwood to tempt his patient, I go, I thought that same thing just the other day. Or, yep, that definitely gets in the way of my relationship with God. So we're going to try and answer two questions all through this study of the Screwtape letters. Am I still on? Yeah, I'm still on the right one. First is, what is Screwtape trying to tell Wormwood about how we humans think and act. And you will find that demons have a really unique view of human beings and our relationship with God. And the second thing we're always going to be asking is what does this tell us about God and our relationship with God? Now then, there are a couple of things I want to cover, first of all, about temptation and about how C.S. Lewis thinks about temptation and evil and demons and things like that. All right? First of all Lewis was often asked, did he believe in the existence of the devil and his demons? Particularly after Screwtape Letters was published, he had a lot of questions about that. And it was interesting because when Screwtape Letters was published, he got a lot of hate mail, particularly from Anglican clergy saying that he shouldn't be writing about things like that. But in the preface to the 1961 edition of the book, it's been republished many times. In the preface to the 1961 edition of the book, Lewis reminds us that the devil is most definitely not a power opposite to God. Okay? A lot of times what we do is we think that there is God and that at the same level there's the devil. All right? That's called dualism. It's not Christian. It's not what we believe. Instead, demons, including the devil, are fallen angels. Now, if we believe that God created everything that is, God is the only one I've seen in the Bible who actually creates. All right? Think of it this way. Why do we love? Some of you biblical scholars out there, why do we love? Because God first loved us. All right? We did not create love. Instead, we receive love from God, and then we share that love. We are filled to overflowing with God's love, and then we share that love with others. So that's the thing is, when we love someone else, whether it's our spouse, whether it's our grandchildren, which are infinitely lovable, children, all of that, when we love, we are doing what God does. And that when we love, we are sharing out of the love that God gives us. Now, if you think about this, have you ever met somebody who didn't love anyone? By the way, most of the time, most of those people do is they love themselves a whole lot, but they really don't love many other people. All right, it's because they keep using up all their love just on themselves. But really, I think what it is I'm not sure that's really love, because I'm not sure you can. I think God still loves them. They just don't realize it. So they waste all their love on themselves. But people who love a lot of people just seem to always have more love to give. So that's what God does. Now, demons are not capable of loving, of receiving love. You will see in the book where where Screwtape says to Wormwood, your affectionate uncle. I want you to picture in your mind what affection between two demons might be like. It's probably not a real good image. All right, but the thing about it is that demons cannot create. The devil cannot create. Instead, they can only corrupt what God has already created. And so what happens here is that Satan, in the tradition, we have nothing that I can find in the Bible that tells this whole story. It's just the tradition of what we believe is that Satan was a fallen angel who got way too full of himself, all right, and basically began to believe, and he had a lot of, you'll read this in the book, he has a lot of objections to the way God just seems to love everyone, regardless of their faults, regardless of who they are. God seems to just keep loving everyone. And, Satan has a real problem with that. I think he would much prefer God to be much more select. It's really interesting to look at the parallels in the book as Satan is described to what we know or think about Judas, the disciple who betrayed Jesus. And so anyway, if we were going to pick a being in heaven who is parallel or equal to Satan, it would not be God, it would be the Archangel Michael. Or it could be the Archangel Gabriel, but I think Archangel Michael is kind of the one that C.S. Lewis has picked out and all of that. Now, ultimately, C.S. Lewis will point out to us that the last book in the Bible, the book of Revelation, in the book of Revelation, God wins. Now, I was just out at Camp McDowell since Friday evening teaching our 9th graders, 30 9th graders, who are there on their confirmation retreat. All right? But which, by the way, if I don't look like I'm all here, I'm not. Got home, got up at 5:15 this morning and drove back so I could be here with y'all today. And I had a blast. Let me tell you something. We had 30 9th graders going through confirmation this time. That retreat was great. I would go do it again next week, except we've got to go to Washington to a wedding. But anyway, y'all remember Jordan Rippey when she was here as our seminary intern? Well, she's now a priest and all that. She's getting married next weekend, so Phyllis and I are going up for that. That has nothing to do with dualism or Satan or anything like that. Let me connect my thought. All right, but anyway, bottom line is demons corrupt what God has created. All right, and so therefore, they must tempt us away from the good side of creation to the not so good side of creation. All right? And so what we'll have in this book, I think in this book, we always have to be reminding ourselves, all right, that there is, with every demon like wormwood whispering in our ears, and according to the book, I think we only have one demon assigned to us. I don't know. Some of you may be so good you need 2 demons. I'm not sure who mine is, but I've come up with a number of names for who it might be. Phyllis has several names for who my demon might be. But anyway, so we're always going to be thinking in terms of the demon whispering in our ears. But I think we also have to remember there's always an angel whispering in our other ear and giving us the message of God. And throughout the book, we will find that there are not only messages that Screwtape tells Wormwood that he should give to his patient, but there are also messages that God will send to us that Screwtape wants him to counter. And he explains in good detail about, why God gives us these messages. Now, along the way, we're also going to learn about vices and virtues, all right? And virtues are those things that the angels are whispering in our ear, all right? Virtues are those good habits in life that we develop. And, well, since virtues have to be corrupted, then that's the role of vices. And so with that, we're going to be looking not only at different vices, division, cynicism, apathy, probably one of the top vices of all, but the corresponding virtue to those. And again, we'll get really good advice on how to overcome a vice like, it's interesting that nostalgia would be a vice, but sometimes one of the things that you'll find is that the demons love to keep us in the past. Sometimes my idea of what happened when I was younger is not consistent with what my mother remembers. So anyway, I think that's the thing is that we're going to be looking at, okay, where does a demon use? How does a demon use different thoughts of ours in order to tempt us over to the side of our Father below and away from God, their enemy? All right, and how do we counter that with a good virtue that we can practice? By the way, I understand, I was looking this up in the New York Times. They did a study, I think it was at Harvard, so it must be true. At Harvard, it takes 40 days to counter a bad habit with a good habit. And so this will be a good time during Lent for you to get rid of some of those bad habits, those vices, and take on some good virtues. All right. Now, that brings us up to Lent. As you all remember, Lent is 40 days. My Jewish friends say, we do it in 7, y'all take 40 days. But 40 days is Lent plus Sundays, okay? And now that's in addition to, and I don't think I get to this later on, but I asked this of the 9th graders, why are Sundays not a part of Lent? Yes. Thank you very much. That's the first year of seminary right there. No, all Sundays are feast days. So they're Sundays in Lent, but they're not of Lent. And so now, if you give up chocolate during Lent, or as I made the mistake of one time, Phyllis threatened me if I ever tried this again, give up coffee, and if you give up chocolate during Lent, Sunday you don't get to go and have chocolate, with one exception. Now, this is a double bonus question that I give the ninth graders a lot of times. What would be the one Sunday where you are allowed to break your Lenten discipline, and you get double bonus points if you can tell me why? One Sunday in Lent. No, Easter is not a part of Lent because that's a feast day. One Sunday in Lent you get to. Not Palm Sunday either. It is the third Sunday of Lent, or the fourth Sunday of Lent, excuse me. It's the fourth Sunday of Lent. And tradition has it that if you take your mother to church on the fourth Sunday of Lent, that you are allowed a reprieve from your Lenten discipline, and you may have dessert at lunch, but your mother must be present. All right. And you must be, all right, now, if your mother has gone to be with Jesus and is having dessert in heaven, then you just need to find somebody else to take you to lunch, and, well, they get to have dessert during that. So, anyway, that's your one reprieve from your Lenten discipline. But you're right, Sundays are always feast days. We actually have two other feast days in Lent this year, but you don't get to break your Lenten discipline then either, and they don't count against the 40 days, and that would be the Feast of the Ascension, and the Feast of St. Joseph, the earthly father of Jesus. So you get a couple of feast days in there. But anyway, let me see here. All right, 40 days begins on Ash Wednesday, March the 5th. Put that on your calendar. Relatively early this year in the long run, in the greater scheme of things. We will have 3 services. Actually, we'll have 4 services for Ash Wednesday. I want to say they're at 6:30 or 7 o'clock in the morning. So watch your dialogue, but 6:30 or 7. If you really want to start your Lent off early, maybe you got extra sins you need to confess, you can come early at 6:30 or 7. I'll be here. Then we also have one for our youth that starts at 7. Yeah, our worship starts at 6:30 in the nave. The youth have it at 7. And then we have one at noon, and we have one at 6:30 in the evening for Ash Wednesday. We also do ashes for the kids down here in the day school and for the kids at preschool partners. It is a blast going over there. And I mean, like, they line up, they're ready to start off their Lent. All right, now then, the Lent goes until Easter Sunday. Actually, technically, if you come to the Easter Vigil, which is supposed to happen after sundown, if you come to the Easter Vigil, you can end your Lent a little early. That's on the Saturday night before Easter Sunday. But Easter runs through, this year will be on April the 20th. 2 good things about that. Again, it's pretty early, so we get Lent over and done with earlier. The other thing that is always a blessing to every clergy member's heart is it is not during the school spring break. Because when it's on spring break, I mean, too many years you've had spring break start on Palm Sunday and end on Easter, and we have no acolytes. And let me tell you, it's really hard being a priest when you haven't got any acolytes. All right, so anyway, now, we're going to be doing this study Monday through Saturday in Lent. And don't worry, I'm going to give you a bigger picture of that a little bit later. That is an online calendar that shows you. Basically, it's one of those things where you get to print it off and cross off only 26 more days to go, that kind of thing. And so it's going to be Monday through Saturday in Lent is when we are going to post online a lesson each and every day. All right. A different letter every day. So I start off with an intro to Screw Tape Letters. A lot of it you're going to be able to listen again and think, oh, I remember when he said that on that Sunday morning at St. Luke's. And so, anyway, Monday through Saturday. Again, we don't do it on Sunday because it's a feast day and because you should be here in church anyway, instead of listening to me online. Each of those episodes is going to be about 12 minutes long is what I'm going through. We're recording them right now because a couple of times I'll go, well, last Sunday Rich preached about, and no, Rich didn't preach about it when you hear this, and so I have to go back, and that's the nice thing is when I'm standing up here and I mess up something, I can't change it. It's all hard. Y'all are going to go out and go, boy, could you believe he said that? Well, online, when we're recording it, I can just go back and tape back over it again. That's really nice. All right. Each day, you're going to get an email about the next day's one that that's going to drop, and you can either listen to it as a podcast. It's on YouTube. It's on our church's YouTube page. And the good news about all this, by the way, is that I printed out all these links on and brought them with me, so you don't even have to remember this stuff. But anyway, so I'll have these when you're through if you want them. It's got the church's YouTube page on here, and you can be able to find on there if you go to, you see where that up there it says playlists. By the way, if you go to playlists, it will have all the episodes listed that we've done. As well, when you go to that calendar each week, and I have the link for that calendar online, when you go to that calendar, I'm about to blow this up because is that you will see it has each day listed, all right, and they're up at the top. It's just called lectionarypage.net, and then as you see over there where I've got the arrow going to Thursday after Ash Wednesday, if you click on that link, it will take you to the scripture readings for the day. You'll remember from your confirmation class that Rich and me and Corey and Becca, we don't get to just pick out whatever we want to preach on. We have a lectionary, and it tells us what we're going to use for that particular Sunday along with the collect of the day. Well, they have them for every day during Lent except Sundays, of course, when it has a different lectionary text. But anyway, all you have to do is click on that link, and it will take you to the scripture readings and the prayer for that day. And I have tried my best to link those in with that letter from Screwtape. Now, C.S. Lewis did not write Screwtape letters using the Episcopal lectionary as he went along. So some days I'll admit it's a stretch, me linking that particular gospel lesson or Old Testament lesson in with that particular letter. Other days they fit perfectly. So, and I think there's 1 or 2 days when I've just had to go, they don't have anything to do with each other. But you'll be able to do that so you can read the scripture lesson. You can have a prayer that you can say for that day. And it just, it'll be another part of your Lenten discipline. All total, if you do this every day, listen to the podcast or watch the YouTube video and go on and read the scripture lessons and all that, you should be able to do that in 20 minutes. All right? And so that's one of the things we wanted to do was to make this something that you could do in the car. Do not read the scripture lessons from the Bible in the car unless someone else is driving. All right. When you click on that link, you'll get something that looks like this that has the prayer. There's a lesson up there from Deuteronomy, I think, and then a psalm. Psalm 1 is one of my favorite psalms in the Bible. Lenten psalms are great. All right. And so that's a good thing to take, print that out, stick it in your pocket, and read it during lunch or something. And then a lesson from the gospel. All right. As well, and I have a blog that I am putting up for this. And it will have not only my notes from that particular day's Screwtape letter, but also links to other things. I might reveal a few mysteries of the faith. I might give you some other links that you would find interesting. I'll give you some of the other resources that I've used along the way. If I have other YouTubes, I'll leave the John Cleese, this link on there for John Cleese's reading of the Screwtape letters. All that will be on my blog right there. It's called Inner Driving. My daughter, when she was in high school one day, told me I needed to get in touch with my inner driving. She was getting a little annoyed at me as I explained to some other drivers that they were not as good a driver as I think I am. And so she said, Dad, you really need to get in touch with your inner driving. And so anyway, she still tells me things like that. But the thing about it is since that time in our family is often, we'll talk about inner family, going to see that member of the family that sometimes tests your faith. You may even consider them to be the one whispering temptations in your ear. So we have inner family. Yes, there's even moments when it's inner church. But so that's my blog, and I'll be posting a lot of other stuff on there. Now, in the remaining time, and I've got about 10 more minutes before I have to go get ready for the next service, and we'll have some time for questions if you want. I want to talk a little bit about C.S. Lewis, simply because C.S. Lewis is our kind of person, all right? C.S. Lewis was not an Anglican priest. He was born in 1898 in Belfast, Ireland. C.S. Lewis, by the way, stands for Clive Staples Lewis. He did not like his name. Sometimes you will see him referred to as Jack. And that was because when he was a boy in Ireland, he had a dog named Jack. And one day Jack ran out in traffic, even in 1898 they had traffic, and was hit by a wagon. And of course killed, and it just devastated Lewis. And so after that, he wanted to be known as Jack, and his family agreed to that. And so even his closest friends would refer to him oftentimes as Jack. Also, another pivotal thing in C.S. Lewis's life was that as a teenager, his mother passed away. I believe it was a cancer, all right? Mother passed away unexpectedly, and that had a great impact on C.S. Lewis to the point where he refused to go to church after that. Said he was no longer a Christian. Became very interested in Scandinavian and Nordic mythology, which, if you've read or seen the movies, the Chronicles of Narnia, you will see a lot of those influences. Plus, he had some others, some science fiction that he wrote that had a lot of those kinds of influences in it. But he left the faith at that point, which was really difficult because, his father was a clergyman. His grandfather was a bishop in the Anglican Church in Ireland. And so he grew up in a very religious family. But he, after the death of his mother, refused to go back to church for quite a while. He went on to Oxford for his education. He was largely self-taught and applied to Oxford and, just basically got accepted when no one thought he would. He went to Oxford, but then shortly thereafter, World War I broke out. And as was the case for many of the young men at Oxford, they went down and enlisted, and he went over and fought in the trench wars in World War I. And that had a great impact on him as well. And you'll see in a number of letters, in the Screwtape Letters, he brings in the war and how war can be used both to strengthen our faith, but to also tear it down, even if you're not one of the ones fighting. And there'll be more interesting parts about this because he, after the war, he got wounded, all right, in the trenches, and he was sent back to England. As happened most of the time when you were wounded, you didn't have to continue fighting, so he was sent back. He stayed on stateside for a little while and then was discharged and went back to Oxford to continue his education. He was, during that time at Oxford, he graduated with honors in Greek and Latin literature, philosophy, and ancient history, and English. That's like going to Harvard and having a triple major. That's pretty impressive. All right. In 1924, he became a philosophy tutor at University College, Oxford. And then at 1925, he began teaching English literature at, all right, let's see what kind of Anglophiles we have here. Who knows how to pronounce the name of that college at Oxford? Yes, ma'am. Magdalen College. Because I kept hearing recordings and I'd say, oh, he went to Magdalen College. And then I'd hear recordings by several C.S. Lewis scholars I'll post the links on YouTube, and they'd say, went to Magdalen. And I'm going, wait a minute, something's not right here. All right. Anybody want to take a guess how you pronounce the one in Cambridge? It's down at the very bottom. All right. It's the same way, Magdalen. Even though it's spelled differently, it's still Magdalen College in Cambridge. I checked with one of my Anglophile friends, and he said, yeah, just different ways to spell it in English. But anyway, all right. Lewis was single throughout most of his life until he met Joy Gresham, all right? And Joy was a Jewish-American poet and author who he met originally. She just wrote him a letter and said, hey, love your books, love your thinking, all of that. Lewis was what we call an apologist. And so a lot of what he did was write a defense of Christianity. I'm not saying he was defending, well, actually, you could say he's also defending it, but we tend to think that he's trying, defending it against people who say it's wrong. That's not what apologetics is. Apologetics is writing that helps you and me understand Christianity better, all right? If you want the really long, boring kind of theology, you read systematics, all right? And systematics is the stuff that breaks down how could Mary have Jesus and he be 100% perfect if she had sin in her life, because you're a Calvinist and you want to believe in original sin and the fact that you're all born morally depraved. I'm not a Calvinist. My granddaughter was perfect when she was born. All right. And my daughter was too, for that matter. Although I really don't think most kids sin till they're about 4 years old, although my daughter does disagree with me on that when it comes to my granddaughter. But anyway, bottom line was that Joy wrote him a letter, and the two began corresponding. Then she came across to England. They met one another, fell in love, and he adopted her two sons, and they were married in 1956. Unfortunately, 4 years later, she died of bone cancer. So the two closest women in his life, both were taken from him. One is a teenager, one after only 4 years of being together. He adopted her two sons, and they remained having a father-son relationship for quite some time after that. Lewis's grief over Joy's death led to one of his books that is just a phenomenal work called A Grief Observed. And so after you finish Screwtape Letters, I've never read A Grief Observed, but I think it's one I'm probably going to take up here in the next year or so. Lewis continued on. He went to teach at Cambridge, Magdalen College there at Cambridge, and he continued teaching there until his retirement that was brought on by kidney disease. And he died on November the 22nd, 1963. Now, other than the fact that that was Phyllis's 6th birthday, wasn't your 6th birthday? Or 4th birthday. Excuse me. It's Phyllis's 4th birthday. That was that demons whispering in my ear. Say it was her 6th. Other than the fact that that was Phyllis's 4th birthday, does anybody remember the significance of that day? Kennedy assassination, that's right. And so literally there was very little put up about his death. He is buried at Holy Trinity Church, Headington. If you know Oxford, that church is still there, and his grave is there at Holy Trinity, Headington, along with his brothers. And they were actually buried in the same grave, which I understand was a pretty regular practice in England during, and may still go on. Interestingly enough about Holy Trinity Church, that's the one he attended most of his time that he was teaching at Oxford. And it was during a service at that church when apparently the curate, which would be the youngest priest on staff, the curate, not the oldest gray-haired guy, but the curate was preaching that day, and apparently his sermon was so bad that Lewis began jotting down his ideas for the Screwtape Letters. If I look out there and see y'all jotting down during one of my sermons, y'all better be getting a pretty dadgum good book ready. So, and I expect credits for it. Yeah, we'd like to thank David Hall for having a sermon so bad that we wrote this book. All right, so anyway, so that pretty much ends it. Again, every day during Lent, beginning Thursday, March the 6th, because you need to be here for church on March the 5th, on Ash Wednesday, you will have a link that we're going to email out to you. You will be able to, not email out to you. You will find it in the e-dialogue. How many of y'all saw the announcement in the e-dialogue for the class and for the fact that I was doing this? How many of you saw that? Very good. If you didn't see it, it was there. Which should tell you another good Lenten discipline is read the e-dialogue. It's a wonderful email. If you're not getting it, let us know. There's two reasons you're not getting it. Either we don't have you on the list, or you have a Bell South email address, and for some reason, unknown to God or us, Bell South does not like the emails that we send out. I think they may consider us malicious or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, because I will make sure you get the link if you don't get emails from the church. Just let me know. You do have to let me know. As Phyllis will tell you, I am absolutely awful at reading minds. And so if you have trouble getting anything, or if you just have questions, things like that, you can let me know. You can go to the blog and Blogspot, which I have right here. You can pick these up afterwards with all those links on there that tells you where to go to get all this good information. And, well, each day there'll be another episode up unless we have technical difficulties like snow, all right, in March and April, but or anything like that. And the other good thing about it is that let's say that you do go out of town, you don't have access to a computer, you can go back and on the YouTube page and listen to or watch other, past episodes. You could wait until the 39th day of Lent and do all of them at once. And no, you can't. So anyway. All right, real quickly, any questions that I can answer for you right now? Yes.
So can I listen to this as a podcast?
Yes.
Can I view it?
Yes. Yes, you can. I don't know. I think because YouTube, you don't have to see YouTube to listen to it. And so that's why we're putting it on YouTube. And then later on you could go back, follow the same link and watch me. Okay, it might not be that exciting, but anyway. Oh, by the way, you can order the book through Amazon. It's been published any number of times. I would order it through Amazon simply because you can get it quickly. You'll find some that are like the annotated edition, which I actually have, which is really nice, but you don't need it. Just get the basic Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis off of Amazon. Anything else? Yes, ma'am. Really, you don't have to. I've done this so that you can start with the intro, which was a lot of this that I'm doing. You can start with that intro, and then each day read. I would definitely say. Basically, what I do is I've got a couple of books that explain help me understand those letters. Is that I'll read the commentary on it, then I'll read the letter, then I'll go back and read the commentary again. So just however it works best for you. But I know Jennifer Boylan has already started reading it because she says, she wants to read it and then go back and listen to the podcast and reread it again, just simply because she wants to be able to, there's a lot of things. Some of these letters are really pretty dense. Packed full of stuff. And remember, there's a lot of British words that we Americans don't use. I try to explain those as we go along in the podcast to say, this is what means. This is what he's referring to. No, I will not be reading the letters simply because I'm trying to keep it to 12 minutes. And as Phyllis will tell you, it's real hard for me to keep anything to 12 minutes. But no, but you can go on and listen to the John Cleese version of it, and they are excellent. I read it, listen to the John Cleese version, go back and read it again. And those are on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and just search John, and I'll put the link on my blog, but if you just go back and search on there for John Cleese Screw Tape Letters, it'll bring them up. All right, guys. Well, listen, I'm looking forward to it. Please do not hesitate to email me, or whatever along the way if you have particular questions. You can also add comments on the blog, things like that. But have happy Lent. And here are the links to this if you want one. Right here. Because I got to go get ready for church. Well, good. Thank you, thank you.
Bye, George.
Okay, see you later. Hey, Evan, I didn't know you were in here. I'd have visited with you. That's both the same.